The text message came at 2:17 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day, and it destroyed me. It was from my cousin Rachel, and all it said was, "Sorry you couldn't make it," with a photo attached. I opened the photo and my stomach dropped. There they all were, my entire family, gathered in my parents' living room. My mother and father in the center, my older brother Daniel and his wife and kids on one side, my younger sister Madison and her fiancé on the other. My aunts, my uncles, my cousins, all of them. Squeezed together, smiling at the camera. The caption my mother had apparently written for the family group chat said, "Our last Thanksgiving all together, sending love to those who chose other priorities." Chose other priorities. I stared at those words until they blurred. I hadn't chosen anything. I'd been uninvited. Let me back up, because this story doesn't start on Thanksgiving. It starts 6 months earlier when I made the biggest mistake of my life. I told my family the truth about my finances. You see, I'm 34 years old, and for the last 12 years I've been working in software development. I started at a small startup right out of college, got in on the ground floor, worked insane hours for equity instead of a huge salary. That startup got acquired 4 years ago, and my equity package was substantial, but I never told my family. I kept living in my modest apartment, driving my 7-year-old Honda, shopping at Target, eating at normal restaurants. My family always saw me as, I guess you could say, the boring one. Daniel was the charismatic one, the sales executive with the big personality. Madison was the creative one, the Instagram influencer with thousands of followers. And me. I was just Emma, the nerdy one who worked with computers and didn't have much of a social life. At family gatherings, Daniel would talk about his latest commission check, and everyone would congratulate him. Madison would show off products companies sent her for free, and everyone would be impressed. And when someone asked me about work, I'd say it was fine and the conversation would move on. I preferred it that way, honestly. Low-key, no drama, no expectations. But then my parents started having financial trouble. Dad's medical bills from his heart surgery had piled up. Mom's part-time job wasn't covering much. I could see the stress on their faces every time I visited. So one Sunday dinner I told them I wanted to help. "I can cover the medical bills," I said quietly. "All of them." The table went silent. Daniel laughed. "Emma, that's sweet, but those bills are like $80,000. "You can't." "I know how much they are," I interrupted. "I'm saying I can cover them. I want to help." My mother's face did this strange thing, like she couldn't decide if she was grateful or offended. "Honey," she said carefully, "we appreciate the offer, but we can't take that kind of money from you. You work so hard for your salary, and you need to save for your own future." "It's not a problem," I insisted. "I have savings. The truth is, I have more than savings. My company did really well and Daniel cut me off." "Wait, how much do you actually make, Emma?" The way he asked it, with that edge in his voice, I should have recognized as a warning sign. But I was trying to help my parents, so I answered honestly. "After taxes and everything, I clear about $450,000 a year. But with my investments and the appreciation of my equity, my net worth is around $8.3 million. You could have heard a pin drop. Madison's fork clattered onto her plate. Daniel's wife Jessica actually gasped. My father slowly set down his water glass. My mother's hand went to her throat. $8 million. Daniel finally said, "You have $8 million. His voice was rising with each word. "And you've been sitting here for years watching us struggle, watching mom and dad stress about money, watching Madison take sponsorship, deals she hated just to pay rent. And you said nothing." "That's not fair," I started, but Madison cut me off. "Not fair, not fair. I've been killing myself trying to build my brand, taking photos of myself in bikinis to sell detox tea to teenagers, and you've been secretly rich this whole time. Why didn't you tell us?" "I tried to," I said weakly. "I'm telling you now, I want to help." "Oh, now you want to help," Daniel said, standing up from the table. "Now that dad almost died and mom's about to lose the house, now you suddenly remember you're part of this family. That was 6 months ago and it got worse from there. Much worse." Instead of being grateful, they were furious. Daniel accused me of being selfish and secretive. Madison posted a vague story on Instagram about fake people who hide who they really are, which her followers ate up. My mother cried and said she felt like she didn't even know me. My father barely spoke to me for weeks. I ended up paying their medical bills anyway, anonymously through a medical debt forgiveness program. But somehow Daniel found out and that made things even worse. He called me controlling. He said I was trying to hold money over their heads. When I tried to explain that I just wanted to help, that I'd kept quiet because I didn't want money to change our relationship, he laughed bitterly. Well, it changed it anyway, didn't it? The final blow came 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. I got a call from my mother. Emma, sweetheart, she said. And I could tell she'd been coached on what to say. We've been talking, and we think it might be best if you didn't come to Thanksgiving this year. What? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why, she sighed. It's just, things are tense, honey. Daniel and Madison are still upset, and we want this Thanksgiving to be peaceful. We want it to be like old times, before everything got complicated. Before I told you I had money, you mean? I said flatly. Your father and I just think, she paused. We think maybe you need some time to reflect on why you kept such a big secret from us. We feel betrayed, Emma. We need space to heal as a family. I'm part of this family, I said, hating how my voice cracked. Am I? She asked quietly. Because the Emma we knew, our Emma, she wouldn't have hidden something so important. She wouldn't have let her parents struggle while sitting on millions of dollars. Maybe you need to figure out who you really are before you can be part of this family again. She hung up before I could respond. So no, I didn't choose other priorities on Thanksgiving. I spent it alone in my apartment, eating Chinese takeout and trying not to cry, until Rachel's message came through with that photo. Our last Thanksgiving all together. I stared at that photo for hours. I zoomed in on each face. My mother looking elegant in her burgundy sweater, my father with his arm around her, Daniel's kids making silly faces, Madison's engagement ring prominently displayed. They all looked so happy, so complete, like I'd never been part of the picture at all. And then I noticed something in the background, the wallpaper in the living room. It was new, a soft gray pattern I didn't recognize. The furniture had been rearranged too. There was a new entertainment center, a bigger TV. I called Rachel. She was the only cousin who'd stayed in touch with me. Hey, I said when she answered. That photo you sent, when did my parents redecorate? Oh, Rachel said, sounding uncomfortable. I think your mom said they did it last month. Daniel helped them pick everything out. They got new furniture too. The old stuff was pretty worn. Last month, I repeated slowly. Did they mention how they paid for all that? Rachel was quiet for a moment. I probably shouldn't say anything. Rachel, I said firmly. How did they pay for it? She sighed. Your mom mentioned something about Daniel helping them with a loan. He said since you were being weird about money, he'd step up and take care of them properly. He got them approved for some kind of credit line. My blood went cold. A credit line? My parents, who just had $80,000 in medical debt, took out more debt to redecorate, and Daniel helped them do it. That's what your mom said, Rachel confirmed. Look, Emma, I don't know what happened between you guys, but this whole thing is messed up. You offer to help and they punish you for having money. That's not okay. I have to go, I said, my mind racing. Thanks for telling me. I hung up and immediately opened my laptop. See, here's the thing nobody in my family knew, not even Rachel. That house they were all sitting in for that perfect Thanksgiving photo. I owned it. Let me explain. 2 years ago, my parents almost lost their house. My father's business had failed, they'd fallen behind on the mortgage, and the bank was starting foreclosure proceedings. They were devastated, ashamed. And they didn't tell anyone until it was almost too late. I found out by accident when I saw a foreclosure notice in the mail during a visit. I couldn't let them lose their home, the house I grew up in, where all our memories were. But I also knew my father's pride would never let him accept money directly from me. So I did something sneaky. I created an LLC under a generic name, Cascade Property Holdings. Through that LLC, I bought my parents' mortgage from the bank, the full amount they owed, which was $312,000. Then I restructured their loan with incredibly favorable terms, low interest, low monthly payments, and I had the LLC send them an official-looking letter explaining that their mortgage had been purchased by a new entity, and here were their new, much better terms. My parents thought they'd just gotten incredibly lucky, that some investment company had bought their debt and happened to give them a better deal. They never knew it was me. I'd been managing it for 2 years, and they'd been making their small monthly payments reliably, thinking they were paying some faceless corporation. But here's the kicker, and this is the part I never told anyone. The deed to the house. It was in my name. When I bought the mortgage, I'd legally purchased the property. I was letting them live there, letting them believe they still owned it, because I never wanted them to feel like charity cases. I just wanted them to be secure. And now, they'd taken out a credit line against a house they didn't actually own. Which meant Daniel had helped them commit fraud, probably unknowingly, but still. I pulled up the LLC account and looked at the payment history. My parents had been paying their monthly amount like clockwork, $473 a month. But last month's payment had been $715. I dug deeper into the county records database. There it was, a home equity line of credit filed 3 weeks ago for $75,000, with the house as collateral. $75,000 that legally couldn't be secured against that house because they didn't own it. I sat back in my chair, my takeout going cold beside me. They'd not only uninvited me from Thanksgiving, not only taken that cruel photo, but they'd also committed financial fraud against property that was legally mine. All while Daniel played the hero and I was cast as the villain. I didn't sleep that night. I kept looking at that photo, at their happy faces, at the new wallpaper and furniture bought with illegally borrowed money. Our last Thanksgiving all together, like I was already dead to them. Friday morning, I made a decision. I called my lawyer, Richard Chen, who'd helped me set up the LLC 2 years ago. Richard, I said when he answered, I need to know my options. I explained everything: the uninvite, the photo, the credit line, the fraud. He listened quietly, and when I finished, he let out a low whistle. Emma, he said, legally speaking, you have every right to foreclose immediately. They took out a loan against property they don't own. That's a clear violation. You could have them evicted within 60 days. I don't want to evict my parents, I said quickly. I know, he said gently. But you asked for options. Option 1, you do nothing. Let them keep making their payments to your LLC. Pretend you don't know about the credit line, and eventually it becomes their problem when they can't pay back money they borrowed against a house they don't own. Option 2, you reveal that you own the house, explain what you did and why, and try to work it out as a family. Option 3, you sell the house out from under them to a real investor and walk away from this whole mess. There has to be another option, I said. Richard was quiet for a moment. There is one more thing you could do, he finally said. It's petty, it's dramatic, and it would definitely make a point. I'm listening, I said. That's how I found my standing in my parents' living room exactly 1 week after Thanksgiving, watching my family's faces go from confusion to shock to horror. Let me tell you how I got there. Richard had suggested that I exercise my legal right as property owner to conduct an inspection. I scheduled it for the following Friday, sent official notice from Cascade Property Holdings LLC to my parents, informing them that as the mortgage holder and legal owner, I'd be conducting a routine property inspection at 2 p.m. My mother called the LLC number, which rang to an answering service. She left a confused message saying they must have the wrong house. They owned their home, this must be a mistake. The answering service, per my instructions, simply confirmed the appointment. When I pulled up at 1:55 p.m., there were 4 cars in the driveway: my parents' car, Daniel's SUV, Madison's convertible, and my Aunt Carol's sedan. Apparently, my mother had rallied the troops to deal with this mysterious property company trying to claim they owned her house. I sat in my car for a moment, looking at the house I'd grown up in, the house where I'd had birthday parties and learned to ride a bike in the driveway, the house I'd secretly bought to protect my parents. I thought about that Thanksgiving photo one more time, then I grabbed my folder of documents and walked to the front door. My mother answered, her face ready for confrontation. Yes, can I help you? Mom, I said quietly, her eyes widened. Emma, what are you doing here? I'm from Cascade Property Holdings, I said, holding up my folder. I'm here for the property inspection. Behind her, I heard Daniel's voice. Mom, who is it? Is it the property company? My mother's face was cycling through emotions. Emma, this isn't funny. There's some mistake with our mortgage and we don't have time for. There's no mistake, I said, stepping past her into the house. The living room was full. My father stood up from his chair. Daniel and Jessica were on the couch. Madison and her fiancé Tyler were by the window. Aunt Carol was in the armchair, apparently there for moral support. They all stared at me. Emma, my father said, what's going on? Why are you here? I'm here, I said, setting my folder down on the coffee table. The new coffee table they'd bought with their illegal credit line. Because I'm the owner of this house. And we need to talk about the $75,000 loan you took out against my property. The silence was deafening. What? My father finally said. What are you talking about? I opened my folder and pulled out the first document. This is the deed to this house, transferred to Cascade Property Holdings LLC 2 years ago when I purchased your mortgage from the bank to prevent foreclosure. I slid it across the table. My mother picked it up with shaking hands, her eyes scanning the page. This can't be real, she whispered. It's very real, I said. I pulled out another document. This is the LLC registration, filed in my name. I'm Cascade Property Holdings. I've owned this house for 2 years. I've been letting you live here, letting you make affordable payments, because I didn't want you to lose your home. But you never told us, Daniel said, standing up. You let us think we still owned our house. You let Dad make payments on his own property. He was making payments on MY property, I corrected. Payments that were a fraction of what the mortgage actually cost. I was covering the difference, about $2,000 a month out of my own pocket, because I love you and I wanted you to be secure. My father sank back into his chair, his face pale. Emma, why would you hide this? For the same reason I hid my money, I said, my voice steady now. Because I knew this would happen. I knew that if you found out, it would become about pride and control instead of about family. And I was right, wasn't I? The second you found out I had money, you didn't see someone who could help. You saw someone who made you feel inferior. Daniel's face was red. That's not, we uninvited you from Thanksgiving, I interrupted, pulling out my phone and showing them the photo Rachel had sent. You took this photo, called it our last Thanksgiving all together, and excluded me like I was already dead to you. All because I committed the sin of being successful and wanting to help. Madison's eyes were filling with tears. Emma, we were just what? I asked, turning to her. Just punishing me for having money you wish you had. Just making me the villain so you could feel better about yourselves. My mother stood up. Now wait just a minute, young lady. You can't just come in here and what? I asked. Exercise my legal rights as the property owner? Because that's exactly what I'm doing. I pulled out the final document. The fraudulent credit line paperwork. This, I said, holding it up, is a home equity line of credit for $75,000, secured against this property. A property you don't own. Do you understand what that means? That means you committed fraud. Probably unintentionally, but fraud nonetheless. We didn't know, my father said weakly. We thought, Daniel, what did you tell them? Daniel's face had gone from red to white. I helped them apply for the credit line. The mortgage was in good standing. The house had equity, it was a standard. You helped them take out a loan against a house they didn't own, I said. A house I own? Did you even check the deed? Did you do any actual research, or were you so excited to play the hero that you didn't bother? This is insane, Jessica said, speaking for the first time. You can't just own someone's house without them knowing. That's predatory. Is it predatory to save someone from foreclosure? I asked. Is it predatory to reduce their monthly payments by 60%? Is it predatory to quietly cover the difference for 2 years without asking for anything in return? Or is it only predatory now that you know it was me? Aunt Carol cleared her throat. Emma, honey, I think everyone's just shocked. Maybe we should all calm down and, I am calm. Aunt Carol, I said. I'm very calm. I've had a week to be upset. I spent Thanksgiving alone, remember? While you were all here, in my house, eating dinner and taking photos and talking about how I chose other priorities. The room fell silent again. My mother slowly sat back down, the deed still in her hands. You really own our house, she whispered. I really own your house, I confirmed. Have for 2 years. You've been living here rent-free, essentially, because I wanted you to have security and dignity. But clearly, that was a mistake. What are you going to do? My father asked, and I heard fear in his voice for the first time. I have several options, I said, sitting down in the chair across from him. I could foreclose immediately based on the fraudulent credit line. I could evict you within 60 days. I could sell the house to a real investor and let you deal with them. Or I paused, letting that word hang in the air. Or, Madison asked desperately. Or, I repeated. I could do what I should have done 2 years ago. I could transfer the deed back to you, clear and free. No mortgage, no payments, nothing. Just your house, owned outright, worth approximately $600,000 based on current market value. You could, my mother's voice broke. You could do that, I could, I said. But I won't. Not to you? Not anymore. My father stood up again. Emma, please, sweetheart, I held up my hand. I'm not finished. I'm not going to evict you, and I'm not going to sell the house. Instead, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to put the house in a trust. The trust will own the property, and you too, I gestured to my parents, will have lifetime residency rights. You can live here until you die, completely free, no rent, no mortgage. But when you're both gone, the house goes to charity. Not to Daniel. Not to Madison. To charity. What? Daniel exploded. You can't. I absolutely can, I said calmly. It's my house. I can do whatever I want with it. And what I want is to make sure you're taken care of. I looked at my parents while also making sure that I gestured around the room, this cruelty, this exclusion, this greed, doesn't get rewarded. But Emma, my mother started. her voice pleading, "What about your brother and sister? What about keeping the house and the family?" I laughed, and it sounded bitter even to my own ears. The family. You mean the family that uninvited me from Thanksgiving? The family that took a photo and called it our last one all together like I was dead? That family. I stood up, gathering my documents. Here's what's gonna happen. I'm having my lawyer draw up the trust paperwork this week. You'll have lifetime residency, but you will not be able to take out any more loans against this property because you won't own it. The fraudulent credit line you already took out. That's your problem to solve. I'd suggest you return whatever you haven't spent and work out a payment plan with the bank. Can't you just? Madison started. No, I said firmly. I can't and I won't. You wanted me out of the family. Congratulations, you got your wish. But you don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to exclude me and also benefit from my generosity. My father's eyes were wet. Emma, please, we made a mistake. We were wrong to uninvite you, wrong to take that photo. We were hurt and confused and instead of talking to me like adults, you punished me, I said. You made me spend Thanksgiving alone while you celebrated in the house I bought for you. So no, Dad. I'm done. I walked toward the door, then turned back one more time. Oh, and about that redecorating you did with the credit line money? I'd recommend you keep the receipts. You're going to need to return as much as possible. The new TV, the furniture, the wallpaper, all of it. Because that's $75,000. You're going to have to pay it back. And based on your actual income, it's going to take you about 15 years. I left them sitting there in stunned silence and walked out to my car. I sat behind the wheel, my hands shaking, and waited for the guilt to hit. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. I felt free. My phone rang as I was driving away. It was Rachel. Oh my God, she said when I answered. My mom just called me. She said you own your parents' house. Is that true? It's true, I confirmed. Rachel, I can't believe, she started, but I could hear the smile in her voice. That's the most badass thing I've ever heard. Did you really tell them the house goes to charity? I did, I said, and I meant it. Good, Rachel said firmly. They've been awful to you, Emma. Honestly, you're being nicer than they deserve. You could have kicked them out. I thought about it, I admitted. But they're still my parents. I still love them, even if I don't like them very much right now. That's fair, Rachel said. Hey, are you doing anything for Christmas? Because if your family is still being stupid, you're coming to my place, you're not spending another holiday alone. I smiled, real tears coming now. Thanks, Rachel. That means a lot. She paused. For what it's worth, Emma, I think your real mom, Caroline, would be proud of you. Standing up for yourself, not letting people walk all over you just because they're family. That takes guts. I had to pull over because I was crying too hard to drive safely. We talked for another 20 minutes, Rachel telling me about her own family drama, making me laugh, reminding me that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who values you, who treats you with respect. The fallout was spectacular. Daniel called me 17 times that evening. I didn't answer. He left voicemails ranging from angry to pleading to angry again. Madison sent me a long text about how I was destroying the family and how could I be so cruel. Aunt Carol, surprisingly, sent me a message saying, I don't understand everything that happened, but I saw their faces when they looked at that deed. You saved them, and they treated you terribly. I'm sorry I didn't speak up more. My parents didn't contact me at all for 3 days. Then, on Monday evening, my mother called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Emma, she said quietly. I just wanted you to know that your father and I have been talking. We've been thinking about everything you said. And I asked, not ready to forgive but willing to listen. And you were right, she said, her voice thick with tears. About all of it. We were so caught up in our own pride, our own embarrassment about needing help, that we made you the villain. We punished you for being successful because it made us feel like failures. And the Thanksgiving thing, excluding you from that photo, that was unforgivable. I don't know if I can forgive it yet, I said honestly. I know, she whispered. I wouldn't forgive me either. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not because you own the house, although finding that out was, well, it was a shock. But because you're my daughter, and I treated you like you were the enemy. What about Dad? I asked. And Daniel, and Madison. Your father is devastated, she said. He's barely said 2 words since Friday. He keeps looking at that deed, at your signature on all those documents, realizing what you did for us. As for your brother and sister, they're gonna have to figure out their own apologies. I can't do it for them. What are you going to do about the credit line? I asked. We're returning everything, my mother said. The furniture went back today. The TV goes back tomorrow. We're going to have to repaint over the wallpaper ourselves, but that's okay. And we're going to pay back every penny, even if it takes us the rest of our lives. You don't have to, I started, but she interrupted. Yes, we do. Emma, you've been taking care of us for 2 years without us even knowing. You've been covering thousands of dollars a month to keep us in our home. The least we can do is clean up our own mess. I was quiet for a moment. The trust is still happening, I finally said. Mom, I mean it. The house isn't going to Daniel or Madison. She sighed, I understand. And honestly, after seeing how they acted, how they encouraged us to shut you out because they were jealous, maybe that's for the best. They need to learn that family isn't about inheritance. It's about showing up for each other. Can I ask you something? I said. Anything, honey. Did you ever actually love having me around? Or was I always just the boring one you tolerated? Oh, Emma, my mother's voice broke completely. No, sweetheart. You were never boring. You were steady. You were the one we could count on. Daniel's all flash and charm, but half the time he's in some crisis. Madison's creative but chaotic. You were the one who had your life together. And I think we resented that a little bit. Because it made us feel like we'd failed somehow. That our stable, successful daughter had to do it all on her own. I hadn't expected that answer, and it hit me harder than I anticipated. I'm still not ready to come to Christmas, I said. I know, she said. But maybe New Year's we could try again. Small, just the four of us. No Daniel, no Madison, no extended family drama. I'll think about it, I said. That's all I'm asking, she replied. We hung up and I sat there in my apartment, looking at that Thanksgiving photo again. But this time I didn't feel destroyed by it. I felt sad, yes, but also strangely empowered. They tried to erase me from the family, and instead, they'd discovered I was the foundation holding everything up. The house they'd taken that photo in, the security they'd felt gathering there, it was all built on my silent generosity. And now they knew. Richard called me the next day to tell me Daniel had contacted him, asking if there was any way to contest the trust. Richard had very politely told him no, that the house was legally mine and I could do whatever I wanted with it. He said Daniel had gotten angry, threatened to sue, and then apparently realized he had no legal ground to stand on and hung up. I almost felt bad for Daniel. Almost. But then I remembered him helping my parents commit fraud, him calling me selfish for keeping my money private, him encouraging them to exclude me from Thanksgiving. And the sympathy faded. Madison sent me another message a week later. This one was different. It said, I've been thinking about what you said, about how we punished you for being successful. And I realized you were right. I've been so obsessed with my influencer career, with looking successful online, that when I found out you were actually successful without posting about it, without needing validation, I felt like a fraud. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know I'm working on myself. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm trying to figure out why I need constant external validation, instead of just being happy for the people I love. I wrote back, simply, thank you for saying that. It's a start. Christmas came and went. I spent it with Rachel and her family, and it was lovely. Quiet, drama-free, full of people who actually wanted me there. My mother sent me a photo on Christmas morning, just her and my father, sitting by their tree in their living room. My living room, technically, with a handwritten note that said, missing you today. Hope you're somewhere that makes you happy. New Year's Eve, I finally agreed to have dinner with my parents. Just the three of us, at a quiet restaurant, neutral territory. We talked for 3 hours. They told me about the stress they'd been under, the shame they'd felt about needing help, the way Daniel and Madison had played on their insecurities. I told them about how lonely I'd been, how I'd worked so hard to be successful partly to make them proud, and how devastating it had been to have that success turned into a weapon against me. We didn't solve everything that night. We didn't magically become the perfect family, but we started slowly, carefully, to rebuild something real. Something based on honesty instead of secrets. My father looked at me over dessert and said, I'm proud of you, Emma. Not because of your money, because of who you are. Because you saved us even when we didn't deserve it. And because you stood up for yourself even when it was hard. That's strength. That's character, I cried right there in the restaurant. As for Daniel and Madison, they eventually came around sort of. Daniel sent me a stiff, formal apology email 3 months later, clearly written after consulting with a therapist or lawyer or both. Madison and I started having occasional coffee dates, rebuilding our relationship slowly. She never quite apologized for the Thanksgiving photo, but she stopped posting about family drama on Instagram, which felt like progress. The house remained in trust like I'd promised. My parents lived there peacefully, and eventually they stopped being embarrassed about me paying for it. They started introducing me to their friends as our daughter who works in tech, with genuine pride instead of confusion. And that photo, the one of our last Thanksgiving all together, someone, I think it was my mother, deleted it from the family group chat. In its place, we started building new memories. Smaller gatherings, more honest conversations, and yes, eventually, a new family photo. This one included me standing right in the center, where I belong. Because here's what I learned from all of this. Family isn't about perfect harmony. It's not about pretending problems don't exist or keeping secrets to protect people's pride. Family is about showing up, about honesty, about standing up for yourself even when it's uncomfortable. And sometimes, the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally need to be reminded that love goes both ways. That being family means respecting each other, not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's hard. That Thanksgiving photo tried to erase me, but instead, it revealed the truth. That I'd been holding everything together all along, that my quiet generosity had been the foundation they'd built their lives on, and that sometimes, the person you exclude from the picture is actually the one who paid for the frame, the wall it hangs on, and the house surrounding it all. They learned that lesson the hard way, and honestly, I'm not sorry they did.